Welcome along to Monday morning's OTB AM. We're here with you every morning from 7:30 until 9:30. And I'm not really sure 2 hours is enough time to do justice to the sporting weekend that was. There was controversy on and off the field. There was a big FAI story. Rory Mcilroy ends the season as the official #1 golfer on the money list, which, let's face it, that's what's important. There was conspiracy theories. There were big wins for certain teams. There was huge season-defining. Is it too early to say it's a season-defining? When Newcastle come into your ground and beat you, does it mean Spurs are still Spursy? It does. Owen, how are you?
I was wondering what you were going to go with season-defining there, because it could really be anything.
England, they're now like the best team in the world by a mile.
As far as pre-season warm-up matches go, that's as season-defining as something can possibly be, I think. And I don't think this is actually being really negative in hindsight. There was a sense before the game that this mattered more than your average warm-up game because of everything that had been kind of said in the build-up to the game. Of course, it was an opportunity for Ireland to perhaps kind of scratch away at what happened in the opening game of this year's Six Nations as well. So this was big. If Ireland had won, or if Ireland had lost by a narrow margin, we would be reading into it just as much as we are going to dissect it this week and this morning on this show, and across all the other media. It's going to happen as well. This matters. When it comes to a World Cup warm-up game, the concerns are not just warm-up related. They're seriously embedded in what we're actually watching in Irish rugby right now. But anyway, back to your point. Yeah, Spurs getting beaten was not great.
No, it's look, there's so many things to talk about. The women's semi-finals in Croker, first time they were ever there. Massive controversy at the end of the Mayo-Galway game, like proper, genuine, massive controversy. Mayo were awarded a free in with 30 seconds left on the clock to tie the game up, which will effectively bring it to extra time. And then the free gets turned around and is actually given a free out, and the cameras don't show what happens. The TG commentators are like, "What? That's unbelievable!" They're like,
they literally say "duckreta."
Yeah, I got that word too. Like, I know what that means, and then it's game over. So we'll deal with that. The Dubs are through. They beat Cork in not a routine game. There was like 7 points all at half time. First 10 minutes after the second half, though, Noelle Healy came on and managed to change the game. So I'm not quite sure why she wasn't playing from the start, but because I missed the start of the game. But so that was that. Rory wins last night in a final pairing against his nemesis, his kryptonite. There was a bit of a wobble in the back nine.
Small bit, but manages to get it done in the end. And you have to really applaud Rory Mcilroy for how he's finished the season, and really how he's kind of, I guess, how the season has gone in general for him. If you look at the fact that he has to put himself into a position to actually win the $15 million, it is a meritocracy. It's based on where you've been, like, going into the season. He wasn't the top 5 going into this weekend as well. He was one of those people who had got to blow par before things teed off at Eastlake. So he deserves to be there. He deserves to have won this tournament. And you kind of think to yourself, is this season a success for Rory Mcilroy? Like, should we be saying that anybody who has his talents should be winning a major every single year?
Well, didn't he say that any year you don't win a major is a disappointment a couple of years back? But I think that any year that you win 15 million quid in one day is also a pretty good year. I think at the end of your life, you'll be like, yeah, I won a bunch of majors. I also won a load of money.
He says it doesn't matter. The money, yeah. And I think at this point in his career, probably doesn't.
I think if it's that much, though,
it is it's
like the entire
ridiculous.
Half the country went batshit because the lotto was 11 million and Rory's just won 15. He sees you're 11 and he raises you 4, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, this game of poker's out.
Yeah, and he's won quite like, the thing is, would he hand back that 15 million quid to have the scenes that Shane Lowry managed to produce at Royal Portrush earlier on this year? The answer is yes. Yes, he would.
At Royal Portrush, yeah. But like, he has won an Open. I think, look, the money matters. Anybody who says the money doesn't matter, I don't believe them anymore at this stage.
No, like, I don't think he means it in the sense that this is completely pointless. Of course it matters. It doesn't matter how rich you are. 15 million quid is going to make some sort of difference to you. It's going to be something that it's going to produce a smile at the very least, privately, from Rory Mcilroy and publicly last night. So it does matter. But in the grand scheme of things, he cares deeply about his legacy. He cares about becoming one of the best that we've ever seen, because he knows he has the talents to do it. And he will need to add majors to actually prove that. But I think you kind of look at that now and you're like, actually, it was a pretty good season. It was actually a very, very good season, despite the fact that, Portrush was an absolute disaster. And on a standalone basis, you can still make the case that
Portrush was a disaster, right? But the way that he handled himself on the Friday suddenly transformed Rory from this fairly soulless person in the eyes of many people watching golf into somebody that they could actually really get behind and love. And I think it's been a transformative year when you look back. It was this year that he decided he's going to play for Ireland in the Olympics as well, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So like, it's been a big okay, so we're still only August. There's still another 3 months left for them to do stuff and do that money tour, that whatever happens now in golf for the rest of the year. But I think it's been a big year.
Race to Dubai.
Big kind of evolutionary period for him. And I think this win, in retrospect, when he comes back and wins a major, he's going to point to this and go, I was in a shootout for a lot of money. It was important. I'd been, beaten in that final pairing when it mattered on big occasions in the past. And I took Brooks Koepka and I schooled him a bit.
Well, that's the thing. You would say that pound for pound, he was up against the best golfer in the world. And
when something is big on the line, who do you want?
That's it. You want Koepka. And when it comes to whether or not 2019 is a success or not, Brooks Koepka had a roaring success in 2019, I think it's fair to say. So for Rory to actually go down the home stretch and beat him when it really mattered, because it did matter, the money does matter, I think it's a significant badge of honour for Rory Mcilroy.
Yeah, absolutely. Spurs were Spursy, Man United, very Man United-y. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer suddenly has gone from beating Chelsea 4-0 to being beaten at home and a missed penalty. He's sitting, that seat's getting a little bit hot, a little bit uncomfortable for him. It's just like, no. No, I'm not having a wedgie, I'm actually just getting fired.
I can't believe what I said. It was Marcus Rashford's penalty on Saturday the best missed penalty you've seen? It was struck beautifully, made a perfect clanging sound off the post. As far as off-target penalties go, it was as good as you get. Like, you just kind of have to feel a little bit sorry for Manchester United at this point, conceding in the 92nd minute, 93rd minute to Patrick Van Aanholt, having missed a penalty. I should have had a second penalty and could easily could have walked away from that encounter with a 3-1 win rather than a 2-1 defeat. So
this is the stuff that used to be visited by Manchester United onto other teams, where they would miss a penalty, their chance of victory was gone, and then they would go down the field and score in Fergie time. But Fergie time's gone.
It is gone. It is gone. And like, that is what I just said there. Really is kind of not the point at all about this. It is about the point that they aren't getting it done in those manners. That they are finding faults where, say, Ferguson faults used not lie. So it's a huge worry for them. The start of the season hasn't been amazing at this point. I certainly thought going to the game against Crystal Palace they would definitely get 3 points. I thought this had actually been an okay start to the season. I thought they were pretty good at Molineux, and of course you had to win against Chelsea in the opening day of the season. But now there are serious concerns, you have to say, that like you would have to be on alert about Manchester United getting beaten at home like that. The good teams should be able to have moments of misfortune at home to Crystal Palace and beat Crystal Palace.
Yeah, pre-season I thought, this Palace team actually look good. They've managed to keep, and they've also invested relatively well, and it's another season for the same management team. That's generally when and then their first 2 games of the season, like, maybe I got that completely wrong. They didn't actually look that good. But then, here we go. Maybe Palace aren't bad, and they're going to actually, these results won't be the absolute. Sorry, I can't even believe that. So you got beaten up by Crystal Palace near Man United? No thanks.
Like, I do wonder if Van Aanholt's goal is actually kind of a significant reminder of where David De Gea is at as well, because I think De Gea's situation and his possible new contract at Manchester United represents a bit of a crossroads as well. It's not something that we thought would be the case because, say, 9 months ago we thought he's probably the best player at the football club in relation to the other players in their position in world football. We could make a case for Pogba here or there.
He was being talked about as one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
Yeah, exactly, and rightfully so.
Have that conversation at the minute.
And we're having the opposite conversation at the minute about whether or not he deserves a new contract at Manchester United. If they give him that new contract, it is going to be a huge sum of money. He will become, I think, the highest paid goalkeeper in world football, if the reports are to be believed, over the last couple of weeks. So this is another situation where Manchester United are looking at it and they're like, God, is this just the same old recent financial failings? Is this going to kind of be a weight around our neck if we give David De Gea this contract and his form continues to deteriorate? So that's a big decision that's coming down the line as well. The way I would look at it, I'd be kind of more of a sunnier disposition on it all for Manchester United fans, that those things happen to a goalkeeper if you take it in isolation. You have days where crazy stuff happens on a football pitch, and perhaps it's not as terminal as some people might make out after their Saturday. But the problem with David De Gea is that this has been going on for a few months now, and he finished last season terribly. It
was a crazy weekend. Obviously started off with Villa thumping Everton 2-0.
Have you got your Wesley jersey?
I'm going to wait a while. There are others, but it was great to actually be back in a game where you score, you batten down the hatches, and you score again in the last minute.
Well, I was making the point last week to you that they'd actually started the season pretty well, despite the fact that they hadn't got a win, and you were like, no, it's all about the wins in the Premier League.
Well, it is. The unfortunate thing was that everybody else the weekend also had weird random wins. So what should have been like, we're up to mid-table, actually they're still only 16th. So But the Premier League looks like it's going to be good this year.
Yeah, it was a brilliant weekend actually. Really enjoyable, tons of storylines. Obviously, the Villa win on Friday night. I don't know. It was just a strangely compelling win. Watching them beat Arsenal light, as everything have kind of turned themselves into be. Like you're watching Theo Walcott obviously missed that horrific chance, and then Alex Iwobi. To be fair, he made a bit of a difference when he came on, hit the post. But you're wondering, how can you possibly smash that glass ceiling into the top six if you're signing players who are top six rejects?
Yeah, Villa did definitely ride their luck to that point. I mean, obviously the big story of the weekend is Liverpool are still Liverpool.
Yes,
right. That's like,
and Arsenal are still Arsenal.
Yeah. They did do a little bit of Arsenal, didn't they?
Absolutely gigantic slice of Arsenaling. David Luiz is like the perfect Arsenal player. The perfect Arsenal player.
You were so excited when he signed.
I was, because he's David Luiz, and it's not going to be boring with him.
No, it's not going to be boring. In fairness, like, and what do you want? You don't really want a Champions League win because it's not possible.
It's true.
Like,
you might want Champions League qualification, which might be impossible if David Luiz tends to find himself one-on-one with one of the fastest players in the Premier League out by the sideline once again and gets absolutely torched. Ben Foster put in a better defensive play against dispossessing one of the West Ham defenders than David Luiz did against Mo Salah on Saturday. He got absolutely torched and gave away a terrible penalty. Just a collection of really poor individual mistakes as well by Arsenal at points. Like, it should have been worse. That Mane chance that Ceballos gave to him in the first chance on a gold plate was another moment that you thought to yourself, God, if they manage to cut out these individual mistakes, they might actually have a chance in big games. But the problem is those individual mistakes just happen far too often.
They could have scored, did a few chances.
It would have been interesting to see what would have happened had Nicolas Pepe buried that when he goes one-on-one with the goalkeeper, had Aubameyang managed to get that effort on target where Adrian messes up the clearance completely. It would have been very interesting to see how Arsenal would have handled a 1-0 lead. But I think what we saw in the second half was the answer to that question, that they probably wouldn't have handled a 1-0 lead very well at all. And they will probably surrender leads as the season goes on. What I will say is that they're in a better position than they were last year, and I do think David Luiz is an upgrade on other Arsenal defenders.
Is that the Russian flag on your t-shirt?
I don't know. Is it?
I'm not sure. Somebody tells me.
Google that.
Yeah, he just like, hey, I work for Russia now.
Or Russia Today. Yeah, well, John Duggan managed to get onto RT last year, so that's just my aim.
Kevin Callahan says on a comment on YouTube, I think, I had a bad dream that England hammered us on Saturday. It wasn't a bad dream, it was the crushing reality of the fact that Ireland are no longer a Tier 1 rugby nation. Are we going to get out of the group? I saw somebody 35-1 on Ireland not to get out of the group. Well, it's probably worth the fiver.
Well, I'd say it's much smaller than 35-1 now, is it?
So we're going to beat Japan? Definitely going to beat Scotland, are we? Definitely. So in fairness, like, everybody in the Ireland camp was pointing out that Scotland turned around a 40-point defeat in the space of a week and won a game. So, we can do the same, right? Except we weren't playing England again until the semi-final or final. There it is, 57-15. Rory Best being interviewed on the TV screen on the Jumbotron in Twickenham. Oh, how Twickenham is such a lovely stadium when Swing Low rolls around, that guttural slave song that the Empire has stolen and uses to celebrate their empire beating their former slaves.
Yeah, 2019
slaves is a joke. Colonists. I don't know what you do. Like, do you just gut the squad and go, right, Bolters, come on in. Simon, come on down. Mr. Zebo, come on, buddy. We were only joking.
Potentially. I think there's a possibility of actually gutting certain positions.
Is Rory Best on the cup bubble?
That's the thing.
On the cup bubble, actually a potential that the captain who you've groomed for the last 6 years stood by through thick and thin. Are you going to now make the decision that, no, you got to go?
If you're going to make that decision, it would be ruthless, no question about it, to cut him entirely from the squad. Getting dropped as starting hooker is a very distinct possibility at this point, something that I'd imagine a lot of people will be encouraging over the next couple of weeks. The thing is, when we've looked at 2019 as a whole, it's been kind of a reminder that there's certain positions where the depth isn't perfect. Like, I'm a big fan of Sean Cronin, and I think in open play, obviously, we all know his talents there, but he proved during the Six Nations as well that on line-out, he can be susceptible as well. I think he was kind of given a bit of a harsh treatment in that regard when it came to, it was the Italy game, wasn't it, in the Six Nations, but I think you can definitely point towards Rory Best on Saturday as somebody who is kind of more directly responsible for line-out failings than the line-out system as a whole. So it's a big decision to be made. Like, Niall Scannell is the third choice, or would have been the third choice. Does he now go up 2 rungs in the ladder?
I think that's what happened, and I don't think he was ever third choice, and that he was never going to be the sub, really.
Sure, because Sean Cronin's impact.
Yeah. Sean Cronin's stuck he's stuck at number 2. There's nothing he can do now in the eyes of anybody in World Rugby to become number 1 at Ireland, it seems. Unless, who knows, give him a game next week and see if his darts work. It's like putting. get the pudding guru in and go, all you're doing is just getting a little white ball in that little hole. That's all you're doing. It's really easy. We all know it's not. That's why those people make loads of money. Okay, look.
We're screwed.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah, we're in a bit of bother here, to be honest. It is very, very reminiscent of 2007. This whole idea, though, that it's somehow the fault of Joe Schmidt announcing his leaving, I just don't subscribe to that whatsoever. I really just, how can you be that bad at the thing you were paid to do by dint of the fact that your rugby coach is announced that he's leaving? He hasn't left. He's still there. He's still the guy who coached you to a brilliant 2018 and a Grand Slam and beating them.
Standing right beside him, who's the next head coach. So you're trying to impress him too. It makes no sense.
No sense. And Warren Gatland. You don't even need to look to other sports. You can look right in rugby. You can look right in international rugby. Warren Gatland announced that he is leaving. Wales won the Grand Slam.
Is Eddie Jones not leaving too? Is he not leaving it? I don't know. Is he starting? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Jones has a deal beyond it. Look, it keeps happening all the time in rugby. It doesn't seem to matter. It's not the same as football, particularly because we have the same coaching ticket taking over and ascending to the throne. So it's fairly obvious. Right, here's what's coming up on the show for you. We're going to get the sports pages, talk about Premier League, going to talk about Rory Mcilroy's amazing win, 15 million quid in one go. It was a brilliant Premier League weekend. Andy Mitten's going to join us to talk to us about Man United. He's writing in The Athletic that he thinks neither Rashford nor Pogba should be taking the penalties and that Martial should be given a go, given that he's only ever missed one in his life. But so too has Marcus Rashford, so we'll put that to him. You can tweet us at OTB AM. And then the second hour this morning, loads of rugby. Cian O'Connor's going to join us to talk about the women's football at the weekend. It is going to be a Galway-Dublin final in Croker. I'm sure the LGFA were pretty happy with the fact that the Dubs came through because it means there will be a big crowd for the final. And then sports news around about 9:15 this morning. Now, let's take you through the newspapers this morning. I'm going to start with the Irish Times. And the Irish Times there this morning. 3 in a row dreams still alive for Dublin. This is the report from the All-Ireland semi-finals in Croke Park from Mary Hannigan. Galway against Dublin is going to be the final in Croker on the 15th of September. Lots of food for thought for Schmidt is the sober headline on the Irish Times. As opposed to most of us, which is the screaming, ah! Which is kind of the appropriate response to that.
Yeah, I haven't gone through all the player ratings this morning, but Gavin Cummesky fairly tears into. There's a lot of threes handed out in the player ratings today, which I haven't seen
class.
For a while.
Let's go through this. We may as well. In fairness, Rob Kearney gets a 6. Jordan Larmour 4. Gary Ringrose 4. Bundy Aki 4. Jacob Stockdale, 3. Ross Byrne, 3. Conor Murray, 4. Cian Healy, 5, because you got to go off the field early, probably. Rory Best, 3. Jesus Christ. Tyg Furlong, 4. Ian Henderson, 5. Yeah, there was at least one turn. John Klein, how's that working out for you? 3. Peter Mahoney, 6. It's Ireland's man of the match, I think. Head and shoulders, is he? No, Rob Kearney up there with the belt. Josh van der Fleer, 5. And CJ Stander, 4. Wow. He's right, though, right?
Yeah, he is.
He is right.
In fairness,
he's totally right.
If you've got a record defeat...
Are there player ratings? Did Rory do his? Or did somebody do them in the...
I presume it was done in yesterday's Sunday Independence.
Might not have been.
Yeah, so, to be fair, it is hard to make a case against any of those player ratings. To be fair, a lot of threes handed out. Yeah, it would have been in yesterday's. We'll try and go through all the papers that do have player ratings done in them. But really, if you're not handing out threes when Joe Schmidt suffered his record defeat and it's your worst ever defeat at Twickenham or whatever it was, then really, when are you going to hand out a 3? So you got to take that opportunity.
I mean, famously, somebody got a 0 from Frano back in the day when Leinster were beaten in one of those games. Which they never forgave him for. It still comes up from the Leinster players. Their anti-Frano is he gave somebody a 0 once. Yeah. I think it was Frano. I'm not sure. If it wasn't, then I have erred. But
I always applaud the courage of the likes of Marca and L'Equipe for being ridiculously harsh on Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain players whenever they get tanked, or whenever they lose their one game in a run of 30 games or something like that. So you've got to applaud Cummesky for the courage to hand out threes left, right and centre for a warm-up game.
You've got to interview these guys. That's
exactly.
It's tricky. I can't find the Indos even online, so
Well, I do have the Indo back page. They go with statistics, lead the way. 42, a record points defeat to England. 34 missed tackles. 2 out halves in race against time to be fit. 1 captain facing a crisis of confidence. 27 days to get it right, and it's a picture of a concerned-looking Joe Schmidt. The front page of the Irish Independent leads with a few Dublin players after their All-Ireland football semi-final win yesterday. Dan MacDonald is writing about the FAI. It has no prospect of moving to better future until it deals with the past, he says. The All-Ireland build-up is beginning. All Blacks' attitude is very much part of Dublin's blueprint, says Dick Clerkin. And Nicholas Roach's diary would be worth a read today as well. To wear a leader's jersey in a Grand Tour is every cyclist's dream. He's in red at the Vuelta.
Yeah, because Nicholas Roach has been having a fairly miserable season so far, where nothing was really going right for him, and here he is suddenly at the end of the season in red. I mean, it's 2 stages in, and so it's very unlikely that it's going to lead to anything as the tour progresses, but it's great for him.
Yeah, well, like, to be in the lead of one of the Grand Tours at any point is a huge, huge thing for every cyclist, especially after having a tough year, because we all know how tough it is to make a livelihood in the sport, and you are really at the mercy of your sponsors all the time, and your sponsors aren't happy unless you get a stage win here or there, unless you're actually up near the top of the GC in the Grand Tours here and there as well, because it's all about the exposure. It is just one big billboard, these tours tend to be. So it's a really, really good news story from Nico Roach.
The Mirror online have loads of 5s and 6s for the Ireland team. Well, not really having that, are you? 5s and 6s, 57 points given up, 34 missed tackles, the majority in the first half.
Yeah, it's tough to make a case for too many 6s. It does seem to be the perceived logic across the papers this morning, across the writers, that Rob Kearney and Cian Healy are kind of the 2 people who might be a bit immune. Who else got a 6 actually, other than Rob Kearney?
Peter O'Mahony.
Oh, Peter O'Mahony. So yeah, that trio seems to be the 3 who will be going to Japan.
Who was the second one?
Cian Healy.
Oh yeah. Well, assuming the injury that he suffered, which had all the hallmarks of a high ankle sprain, right? Daily Mail. I can fix this. Ireland can ride out bad patch, says Schmidt. This is a Roy Keane story. Joe Schmidt is confident he can reverse Ireland's slump in form in time for the World Cup, citing his early days as Leinster head coach when he guided the province through a rough patch. I said to the players after the game, look, I've been coaching professionally for 17 years. I've had these days. I think there's been 2 or 3 of them. So they are very, very rare, and we've turned them around each time. I do firmly believe that we can. Okay, come on, keep talking, Joe. We're listening. When you have a game where so many elements of it don't come together, it's very hard to get into the game, and I think we made it easier for England than it should have been. England are a really good side, and so they took advantage of whatever we did offer them, and it's incredibly disappointing. And yet we were in the game. We had a lead. You know, I don't know. It just feels like there's a power to that England team that we don't have, and are never going to have, like, with this group of players, because you can't suddenly turn one of our guys into Billy Vunipola or Cocknasinga. Like, we just don't have those giants of men, and so therefore, what can we do to try and beat them? And there was no sign of it. Now, obviously, they're not game planning for that game. Like, they're not trying to beat that England team, are they? They're just getting fit and trying to get confidence.
Well, I'm sure that they're game planning for whatever their number 1 plan is, whatever they want to actually, like, whatever Joe Schmidt had planned to do on Saturday. You'd imagine he would have been planning to do something similar in, say, a World Cup quarter-final, because this is your toughest warm-up game. You're also in that sweet spot where you've got a couple of weeks to recover. Like, you'd imagine it would be a bit of a tapering off in terms of the intensity in the warm-up games now for the next 2 weeks. But this was perfect. You know, this was a really strong opposition. Like England, Wales, there's much between them, but possibly this is the toughest game they will have during the entire warm-up period. It was England's first team. It was close to your first team. Only 3 missing, really, from what most people believe to be the starting 15, his first choice 15. So why wouldn't the game plan also fall into the first choice category? I think really this was Joe Schmidt sending his team out to actually try and win this game, to actually try and give a really, really good account of themselves. The whole lack of motivation, maybe the missed tackle stat is the most important one. Maybe there actually just was something that just was that bit off, that they weren't planning to actually go full bore on, but it's just hard to make sense of it. It's hard to make a case for that.
Yeah, it's impossible.
The Irish Daily Mirror goes in the front page with lightning knocks out Irish team. This is Ryan, 19, lucky to be alive after 1 billion volt blast at golf course. So this is the moment an Irish golf fan is knocked out cold as lightning strikes a tree he is standing under. This is at East Lake over the course of the weekend. Ryan Murphy, who's a 19-year-old from Cookstown, County Tyrone, was one of 6 people hurt as the bolts of up to 1 billion volts of electricity hit the East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta. His dad, Terry Murphy, told yesterday how the first thing his son said to him was, "Don't say anything to mummy." It's a mad story. Like, I think there's going to be some questions at the PGA Tour after that. Like, I'm not sure what those questions even are, or like how you actually kind of stop this. Like, what the learnings actually are from this. It's just it's a freak moment. Back page of the Mirror is, "It's not the end of the world. Joe insists there is time to improve." Bruce Joyett wins over Spurs and Oz. So Steve Bruce claims watching Joelinton win him his first points at Newcastle loss was as nerve-wracking as watching the Ashes. So Steve Bruce, just before kick-off yesterday, said he was watching Ben Stokes wipe the floor with the Aussies, and he said he was pretty delighted for them.
So the front page of the Star is Plunder and Lightning. At the top of the morning to you. McIlroy's US golf drama. So Rory wins, tees up 15 million wedge. Wedge as in, money. Also a golf wedge. See what they've done. And triumph after Irish fan hit by horror bolt. I hadn't seen the footage, but the picture of the lightning does look pretty scary. Can you see that there? No, they've obviously added in the lightning bolt, but the fire. If you're like at the bottom of that and the lightning bolt hits you and the fire is there, it's like I'm gonna say I'm a bit scared. Not afraid to admit it.
My first thought of that would have happened if I'd seen that towering inferno above my head. I would have actually just believed immediately that dragons are real. I was wrong all along. Dragons are real. We've been attacked here at East Lake Golf Club, and then probably the realisation would hit that actually no, it's probably just a bolt of lightning, to be honest.
So there is some video footage of it knocking around. We'll try and get a look at that for you before the end of the show this morning. And then the back page headline is 15 million man Rory. Camera left. There you go. Yeah, 15 million man Rory, and that's him. Delighted with himself, as he deserves to be. We must bounce right act. So Bundy Aki obviously did some media in the immediate aftermath of the game as well. Pep will pay price for VAR. Pep pissed off with VAR, funnily enough. And Toon rising from ashes. Steve Bruce claimed, you've already done that one, sorry.
Back page of the Herald is Dublin's Double Trouble special. So this is Paddy Andrews, who's quoted across newspapers this morning, talking about O'Callaghan and Mannion in their top form. Meanwhile, Brady is in battle to prove his fitness. So this is Robbie Brady, who's facing a major battle to prove his fitness in time for next week's Euro 2020 qualifier at home to Switzerland. Teenager Troy Parrott is also running out of time in his bid to work his way into the squad. And Paul Curran's column also focuses on the All-Ireland football final this weekend. Kerry should be close, but won't last pace. Dubs have too many outstanding players, he says.
So the Ashes, I don't know if anybody caught it, but I actually managed to miss the last half hour of it, but it did look like it was all coming to a head for Ben Stokes. The greatest innings is what it's been pronounced by The Guardian. So they're saying Stokes rips up the record books and provides a Headingley miracle. Their last few stands with, the bottom of the order was just sensational. It's not an opportunity that everybody gets to see in all their lives. He was dropped at one stage. It's now, so it's what they've been heading to that. It was Australia won, there've been a draw, so it's now 1-1 with 3 of the tests gone, 2 tests left to go. Irrespective of what happens, the 5th test will actually have something riding on it. So
yeah, he said he was eating Nando's and Yorkie bars the night before. So that's obviously the key to success.
Champions.
Yeah, absolutely. Front page of the Times London edition is Stokes leads England to epic Ashes comeback, and he's on the back page as well, naturally. Superman is their snappy headline. Joe Root hails superhuman Stokes. Mike Atherton on one of the great knocks, and Steve James, it was better than both of them.
Front page stories on the Sun this morning, both are sports related. Ruse, sorry now, and it's Colleen Rooney flying into the US, and the Sun tells us that Colleen arrives in US for latest showdown. Apparently she wants Wayne Rooney back in the UK now. And I have no fears for my safety. Shot boxing coach recovering well. Boxing coach Pete Taylor is recovering well after being shot and insists there is no threat on my life. The back page of the Sun this morning. Out of tune. Poch's unsettled Spurs failed to get going. Are they already out? Are they done? Is that it?
Well, what do you mean by done? Title challengers?
Yeah. The stuff that we thought that we took on faith that they will be better than last season. This is exactly the type of stuff that happened to them last year.
Well, they recruited well in the summer, but they didn't recruit enough to challenge Manchester City and Liverpool over the course of 38 games, you'd imagine. So I think we knew the answer to that question already.
No, loads of people were like, they're legitimate title contenders. It's Rory Mcilroy is their headline for Mcilroy. Coaching 17 years. I've had these days, says Joe Schmidt. And then some lads have only 4 or 5 games for Kerry. Peter Keane not having the stuff that Jim Gavin was saying about. This is Kerry's time. This year, right now, this moment, this team, they have a core of very experienced players through the team. They do.
Yeah, they do. A lot of them, like the experienced players, most of them have won All-Ireland medal.
So what are we at? Today's Monday the 26th. What are your excitement levels? Excited to be back in an All-Ireland final and everything that comes with that, and the day and the weekend that brings, for sure. But in terms of actually being excited for a game that Kerry could get absolutely slaughtered in, it's not exactly easy to be completely overjoyed with the prospect. So what are your fear levels?
Pretty high.
How high?
An 8 out of 10.
Right.
And it's only Monday. Yeah. Look, it's the looming possibility.
But you must have been talking yourself into if this and this and this happen.
Well, no, see, that's the point. I would be less terrified if I was, say, a Tyrone fan, because if I was a Tyrone fan, I'd know that my team would get beaten by 11 or 12 points, or maybe 8 on a good day. If I was a Mayo fan, I'd be pretty terrified as well, because either what happened in 2017 could happen, or what happened a couple of weeks ago could happen. Whereas with Kerry, the only form they have to show against Dublin in the Championship is actually going quite close. So they actually haven't experienced that thing, which is getting absolutely pulverised by Dublin. But Dublin have pulverised every other county they played in Championship football at this point. They finally put the Mayo ghost to bed. And I'm saying that very, very tongue-in-cheek. The one team that they haven't absolutely destroyed and pulled apart in a completely ruthless manner is Kerry. And they could easily do that this Sunday. And it's just the fear of unknowing about that. Could that possibly happen? That is why I'm terrified. The Irish Examiner leads with that as well. Kerry's lucky general. Keane says Kingdom kids are inexperienced, but in it to win it. Efi exit, Cork boss steps down as Dubs eye 3 in a row. Anthony Daly is talking about the tip conveyor belt motoring, but Cork's confidence is shot. Barra survive, Cork champions edge Ross, Causeway are crowned Kerry kingpins, and worrying times is their little headline on the rugby. Schmidt admits concern at dishevelled Ireland.
The Telegraph this morning, wow, they're pretty happy. Out of this world. Stokes is unstoppable now. A colossal Superman who saves the series. That's Michael Vaughan's piece. He's the equal of both of them in 1981. Andrew Flintoff in 2005, with more to come. What is the impact on Brexit? Who knows? And Racing Post this morning. The US Open starts. It's on Amazon. And Stokes, stunning century, seals Ashes' victory for 25-1 England at Headingley. So obviously a huge upset that he was able to manage it and get it done. And Ascot given Saturday deadline to decide its ITV future. Ascot has been asked to decide by the end of this week if it wants to remain part of ITV's British racing coverage, with the decision having the potential to determine if the sport's most famous racecourse moves largely off mainstream television.
Let's have a look at the Irish news this morning. Andrews has no problem with Morgan, so he was asked about the jaw injury he sustained in that collision with Niall Morgan, Paddy Andrews. We've also got asked this morning, Estancados, Real Madrid. They didn't win it the weekend, actually. Real Madrid.
Is that stinks?
Perhaps. Gareth Bale played again, didn't get taken off. Right. I was watching Barcelona last night, and Antoine Griezmann did the most bizarre celebration I've ever seen in my entire life. He's clearly got an incredible obsession with LeBron James as like his hero, and he tried to do stagnant, is that what it means? He tried to do that chalk toss that LeBron James does before each game, where he like grabs the chalk, claps his hands together, and it makes a massive cloud over his head. Griezmann went over to the corner flag. Some guy had glitter, poured it into his hand, glitter, like blue and red glitter for Barcelona, and then threw it up in the air like chalk.
Did you get booked for that? Because it's a prop. Not allowed to use props.
I don't think he did get booked, actually, no.
Hometown decision. Were they at home?
They were at home.
There you go.
But if there's a man giving you glitter, it's probably at home. Unless it was a number. He looked like a photographer.
Well, he's got to move around, doesn't he? He's got to have access to move around, because what if he scores in the first half or the second half?
That's true,
Unless he's got one in all 4 corners, and it doesn't matter which corner he goes to.
But it was actually for his second goal, so...
He's so rich, he can do whatever he wants.
It wasn't in the first half, so yeah, maybe that was it.
Did they win?
They hammered Betis 5-2.
I'm guessing from the Real Madrid headline that they didn't win?
No, they didn't.
Hence the Estancados.
Yes, stagnant. It's another. We should just collect a language of words that we've learned from ass alone.
9 minutes past 8 this morning. You're watching OTB AM. Up next, we're talking football. Just got it out of you. Up next, we're talking football. Kenny Cunningham. We're back with Harry Arter, who made his OTB commentary debut at the weekend after these.